Adela Lavine. Lavine. Okay. And her title, I'm going to talk a little bit about you first. Okay. She's so anxious to come there. First topic is my journey. She says, I have the gift of intuition as well as a medium ability. The intuitive gift is looking into your soul to see how you were when you came into this life, this world. How you ticked before the world got to you. I believe every decision we make in life changes our future. I believe we're all connected to our energy on the other side as well as on this plane. We all have varying degrees and varying abilities to tap into that energy. She discovered her medium gift at the age of 22. I've always understood death, maybe not the pain, but understood the concept from the time I was very young. Perhaps this is why I take so much care in my readings. Trying to understand this world can sometimes be a lonely mystery. And trusting what we can't see physically can be hard for most of us. And I know that that is one of your jobs on your journey. You wrote it. Oh. Thank you.
Okay, turn this.
Yeah. Okay. And then which water is they're all fresh. They're all fresh. Water's kind of the thing. Sorry about that. Hi everybody. Thank you for having me here. I was sitting here. This has been very pleasant, and I'm like, wow, who's going to be talking? And then I had to keep reminding I'm the person talking. Sorry. You want to turn it down? See, you did it. You told me not to do that. So sorry. It's a little stronger than I realized. Yeah. I won't. Peter Piper. My name's Adela Lavine, as she said, and I'm an intuitive and a medium. Intuitive really is just a sense actually. And I did have all these things from the time I was very young. I just didn't understand it or try to attempt to understand it until my 20s, and then I expanded it for many years because it got too overwhelming. My mother died when I was 10 days old, and my aunt and uncle raised me, and they passed by the time I was 28. So I had a lot of pain. So when I wrote that I understood death, I did. I kind of was way too much understanding of it from a very young age. I didn't have a fear of my own, but I was very understanding that time was limited, even at like 7, 6 here. I wasn't afraid of it. It was just the idea of understanding how do we keep these connections. Not all childhoods are perfect. Come on. Most of them are not perfect at all. But it's just the idea that I did still care about the pain people go through with loss and things. So that part started to develop. And I know the theme today, or the theme this month, is love. And when I was told that, I was kind of more like, what can I say about it? You know, the guy said, sing the perfect song, right? One of the perfect songs. There's been songs and poems, and people have written about love. But what I realized is that the understanding I've come to understand from dealing with this realm, which everything I've learned has been directly from this realm. I didn't take classes. I didn't have teachers. When I ran from not wanting to be able to see things, I
things weren't working out in life. Nothing ever clicked. And at some point, after my aunt, who was the only mother I knew, she died, and my uncle, the only father I knew, died, I went on still a little bit of a run, but at some point I laid down and said, okay, what do you guys want me to do? So I started to see teachers in that realm who were showing me how this universe is still connected to this world, and how in this world we live in divide. We live in divide of states, countries, our physical self, by race, by preferences. We're very focused on what makes us different and what can we label ourselves as. I'm a this, I'm a that. I live here, what car do you drive? Pretty much everything is about where you are. And in this realm, when they showed me, and I did a class last night trying to show people how you go and connect, because it's accessible to everyone at any time. That help that you guys were talking about, the light and what you want to pull to help you, like this is accessible to you. Nobody's between you and that space. And that's why they didn't want me to learn through physical people, because of ego. It's a little crazy sometimes with people. And they wanted it to be more coming from a pure place where I wasn't influenced by someone's, because could have been very easily influenced at that time. And when I went to this space of what I call home, where we all come from and where we all return, that is a different kind of love. And when I read and when I see things, it's not about just trying to see people's future, which I can, but it's about jumping into your sphere, to how you all differently see the world. We're all uniquely who we are, very much so. You're uniquely who you are, like the thumbprint. And we all think we're seeing this right now at the same time in the same way, but we are not. Because the way we view the world is very, very different. However, what's not happening all the times here is the compassion and empathy and acceptance for that. Different is good. It's not a bad thing. We're not trying to become synced into one, like blob. We just want to be able to get back to what we know, which we're all actually born with. All the answers are born inside of us. And when the world does get to you and your parents, and you're born and you come into this family, like in this family, this is how we do it, and this is how we eat, and this is how we dress, and this is the routines we do, that part that's so unique kind of gets crushed. It's not blaming it, on everything on our parents, but it's just part of what happens here, because we're trying to adapt to this place, and people are trying to show you this is how it works here. But when that part gets crushed, then the understanding and you being seen gets lost. And in this realm, you are seen without having to explain it, without having to write it, without having to show, okay, this is the pain I'm in, this is how I see things, this is how I feel things. And so that feeling of love is a knowing. It's a connection, it's a collective consciousness that exists in this realm. Every single person here is servicing each other. Everything. It's not a sacrifice service of you have to sacrifice everything and give up everything, because we're taught that's kind of more of an oppression. It's more because we're uniquely different, we do uniquely different things. We're not all meant to do everything. And that's where ego can get a little wonky. So if someone is a musician, which I beg gift. When I was little, I had little pretend mics. I was like, I'm going to sing and I'm going to be a rock star and the world's going to have. And they were like, no, this is not going to happen. Your ego, you're not handling. This is not going to happen for you. But I so appreciate and love the gift of music and musicians and what they create and how they sing and how they write and artists. But we tend to put hierarchy here, which doesn't exist in that realm. There is no hierarchy, and that's also the love. It's everybody is servicing what is built in them. So to me, the way I've been shown is when you're going through life and the person serving you the coffee, the person, there's somebody who has to clean up all of the gook at the hospital, throwing away needles. Every single person who's doing something is doing a service to help us on this plane, because this plane, this world is difficult. So we all beam down here to have an experience of a human experience, which is very limited. A body's limited. You have to get in a car. This physical plane limits us, but we actually have a knowing of another place where it was different. And that's why you can get emotional when you feel something and you hear a song or you watch something. It kind of takes you to some magical place that really did exist, and you return. But in this place, we're kind of taught not to pay attention to that. But we actually already know it. And in here, we're doing the best that we can to connect with each other in the way that we know how. So if somebody says, I'm really interested in healing, they may become a doctor. So we try to fit these boxes that fit who we are. But the place of love that I feel in that realm, this compassion, is family. It's not just the physical family, it's just this family. We all knew each other before we came, and at some point agreed that we'll cross paths, not knowing how. And every single day, there is someone you are crossing paths with and having an effect. So I was thinking about how to explain this, and I was going to tell this little quick story. My aunt got diagnosed with leukemia when I was 16. I had dreams of her dying every month. Now, I don't ever freak out. I don't just walk around doing that to people. But it's my path, my journey, so I was able to see it. Now, being a logical person, because honestly, I actually come from a very educated family, not a hippie family at all. So they're all PhDs and master's degrees and things like this, and therapists and psychologists. I thought, okay, so my mother died when I was 10 days old, my aunt's raising me, I have a fear of her dying. Makes sense, you know. But my uncle was a dialysis patient for 34 years. One of the longest in the world. He was the first one in LA. I know the man who invented the things that create dialysis today. By the way, he was not happy with the way they took his invention. He was a very humble man, very famous scientist. And I'm saying this because in all logic, he was always in the fear of death in our family. Because they didn't know how long he would live. Because he went in the 60s on dialysis and they were like, you're the first one and you're the guinea pig, we don't know. So logically, we were always thinking his time could be quick. He was a very, very strong person. He was a very spiritual person. He was religious, and that's how he chose his spirituality, but he was very open-minded and hearted. But he was determined to live, and he had a job. He was a professor because he wanted to pave the way for people behind him. So logically, though, still physically, his time was very limited as far as we knew. But when I used to look into his soul, I used to say that I just didn't see him dying before her. She was a very strong, dominating, controlling, very, like you would not see that about her, that she saved his life actually. But I always had these dreams, and the last dream I had, she fell through the pier, the Santa Monica Pier, and she was very big into going to the beach. The beach was, and this, nature, anything nature, that was one of them. And I saw her go to the pier, and I went to reach for her, and somebody said, "You can't help her, she's died." I could hear someone talking to me. That was the last dream I had of her, and she got diagnosed with leukemia. And I just knew she was going to pass. Everyone was very hopeful. I knew to go through all those stages. You know, we're going to fight it and all this kind of stuff. And for some reason, she actually confided. I took her to chemo every week at 17. I would get out of the wheelchair and I drove her. For some reason, I think it's obvious now. I didn't know at the time. I kind of could handle her talking to me about her fears and all this. But the point of all of this is kind of a little bit to tell you my path. It's also to tell you how I came to this understanding of how everything we do affects, right? And it doesn't have to be grand, sorry. I feel like people feel in order to make a change, it has to be grand. You know, it has to be, a charity I opened, or how big can we make it? Kind of very fitting to what she was talking about. Things can be simple. And I was pushing my mother, and she's throwing up on herself in the wheelchair. And I'm 17, and I looked like 12, because I always looked really young, people that was much younger. And then this was in the 80s, and people were not nice about illness. In the hospital, nobody even stopped. "Are you okay?" They just walked by, eyes up, almost looked annoyed. And I remember feeling that. I was like, God, there's just like no compassion. And, you know, part of me wanted to get really angry at the world. Well, I did go down that route. Obviously, I was 17. And you go through, you know, routes in your life. But in that moment, I was just so mortified for her. We had kind of a complicated relationship, but I still was taking care of her. And I'm pushing her, and I get to the door of the bathroom, and I'm struggling to get her in, and nobody's like helping me. But one lady stopped and opened the door, and she held it. Now, she wasn't very friendly. She wasn't kind about it. She wasn't asking me anything. She actually kind of looked very kind of cold. But in that split moment, it just kind of came to me like, I'm going to remember this lady forever. Because in this moment, she made a huge difference that she didn't know. I was able to get my mom in, and I was able to clean her up. And I just needed someone to recognize it. I just needed that tiny little bit of moment. I still remember. This is like, I'm 49. I still remember her. And I knew at that time that I was going to, I just said, okay, everything we do makes a difference. It changes the future. It changes how we see things. And that world that I'm talking about, the realm we are connected to, that's how they operate. That's how that energy operates. And we tend to live in a very, here the reason why it can feel harsh and difficult is because you meet someone, you say, okay, good luck to you, I hope things work out. And you don't realize that that connection is continuing. Even if you're not physically in contact, everything we do is vibrating through each other. We're all responsible for all of it. And in the realm that feels this love and compassion and empathy understands that, we all know this as children. Children are like this. They're kind of magical. They believe in this. And we adapt them. We've been adapted. So all the answers that you want, you already have them inside you. Spiritual teachers and all of this are only supposed to help unlock and send you offline, not to follow a person or follow rules. Because you're also uniquely different, you're going to adapt it to who you are. And the cool part to me is when I read someone and I jump into their sphere, I learn every reading I do because I'm seeing the world according to you. I'm I guess you can get a little not grounded, and this is a very grounded nature. And sometimes I read someone and they're very grounded and they kind of get this earth, they know how to navigate things, they're like bada bing, bada boom, they're very like, and I'm going, oh, that's pretty cool, I can like kind of take a little piece of that knowledge, I could use that. Someone else is like very laid back, you're like, life's life, what are you going to do? And I'm like, how do you do that? They're like, I don't know, I've always been this way, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like when I'm reading them, I'm telling them, you're kind of like, life's life, what are you going to do? And they're like, yeah, that's me. And I go, that's super cool because I can't do that. And they're like, well, and I go, okay, so I can take a little bit of that. But I feel so honored that I get to see the world through all these different views because we think we're doing that and we're not. We're really not. And we also don't accept that about people. This is the way this person ticks. Just leave them alone. I mean, yeah, they could adapt it a little bit. Maybe they could not be so laid back at times, or maybe if someone's the take charge person, they could be more kind about how they take charge and not run everybody down, because psychology, things that you go through in life affect who you are. But the core of who you are is the core of who you are, and you don't have to change that. But the lastly that I'm leading to is the compassion and love and empathy for yourself. The universe does expect, in God, whichever word you want to use, right? Expect you to pour that into yourself. If you are not valuing and getting into your own skin, and it's not just love, like just love yourself, because that's, we hear that, but it doesn't always hit you. It's being in your own skin. It's walking around prancing like, yeah, I'm this guy, I take charge, that's what I do. I'm good at business, that's who I am. So I'm a business guy, I'm your guy. And you just wear it proudly, and this getting into your own skin is really the self-love. And then everybody's in their own skin, and everyone's creating and doing their own thing, and we're all benefiting from it all the time. And that realm is that I feel that love is about that. It's always really cool with you being who you are. Now we are here to learn, and we go through things that scar us and hurt us. Of course, nobody is going to take that and tell you not to know that. But the core of who you are, if you can own that, then you can heal those things. You don't have to change every part of yourself. And so when I think of love, this is more how I see it. And when I tap into that energy, it feels like home. And this is harder to bring that here, because we're very hard on ourselves and we put ourselves through a lot. When you just leave yourself alone, this is who you are. You can, make some improvements, and you can heal some of those things that people have knocked around on you. But we can appreciate, this is the point. And in the end, we're all connected in a way that we're all going through pain. We all want to be seen. We all want to be loved. And we all just really want to be seen for who we truly are without our masks.